Hello, welcome. Jalal and I really want to share with you our story. When we meet new people, they're quick to tell us their story, as is of course really important to them to have their story land in our hearts. But we need to share our story, so we're going to do that today on this video.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do it in kind of backwards order, starting with right now.
Yeah.
How do we explain what's going on right now?
Well, we're in Puerto Vallarta, which is a beautiful resort town in Mexico. And we came here on vacation about 8 years ago. No, not that long. I don't know, 6 years ago maybe, and just really loved it. And kind of surprised ourselves by wanting to be back here again. And it's a beautiful city. It's a romantic city. And people come here to get away from their lives and the drudgery of their lives or whatever they're living. So it's amazing energy to be around.
It is. Now we're here for all of 2 months. We have been here in Puerto Vallarta for 2 months, in Mexico for 2 years, and we'll share how we led up to this 2 months. But what's going on in this 2 months right now? That's what I wanted to share about.
Go ahead.
We have birthed a work in our hearts and in our relationships that serves people, and that's been about 8 years in the making. But something is just exploding onto the horizons for us, and it's something as big as moving on Facebook, and there's new clients that we're serving and new people that are really being drawn to us. So it's such a time of fruition and excitement.
Yes.
That sometimes it's by the hour what's happening in our hearts.
And to set this up, 2 months ago we were living in a remote ranch, 700 acres of mostly undeveloped wilderness that had never been lived on. It has a very strong native vibration. You almost feel like you're in other dimensions when you're walking around. We've connected to other dimensions quite a bit there. And we would see more sheep than we would see people most of the time, and we didn't have internet access there. So we'd go into town, and you have to cross a river, literally, to get to the road, to take 2 hours to get to the town to use the internet. So this is very remote. And very different than what we're living now.
So a big part of what we're in is in so much contrast to where we were for 18 months, our first year and a half after leaving Canada, with 4 of us in 2 vehicles, loaded full with 3 dogs. We found this ranch to be a landing pad for us. But so this present 2 months has been just electric and unfolding, and things coming. And if you've been a part of our Facebook pages and our Soulful Heart Circle, you've seen that energy coming alive.
And I want to add that we had never been on Facebook really before. I've had an account many years ago for a few months, and then I've had this account I have now for maybe 6. So this is very new for us, and we're kind of like, sort of, if you imagine, I like to joke that we're country mice that came into the city and then suddenly the light's shining on us. It's like, there's a little bit of that going on.
And just not only were we not a part of social media in general, we really kind of went so deeply into our very tiny community, just a few of us, as well as into our bond. And there just wasn't resonance with people who weren't drawn to our work, because our work began to diverge from the mainstream of relationality. And so that was particularly heightened in this 18 months on the ranch, when going days without an industrial sound was the setting. And again, not a dark night of the soul, but a bit of a long night of the soul, in the intense quietness and solitude, beauty of nature that was off the chart, gardening, doing our own natural building. But we got so intensely into it. We even, the money that we, with the 4 of us that we pooled together and formed a nest egg to come here and to live, lasted us for about our first year. And we actually depleted that nest egg and had to very gingerly find a new bits and pieces.
This is actually, I want to add that the reason we came to Puerto Vallarta from the ranch is because Lena and Sequoia started to earn money
Mhm.
teaching online, and they had no internet to do that. So they were in town, and we were at the sanctuary, we call it too, and they were going back and forth. And then the rainy season came, and when the rainy season comes, you cannot cross the river often, or by horse. And riding a horse across a raging river is scary.
Yeah.
And you can get cut off too, where you can't even take a horse, and that can be for a couple of weeks, which can be fine if you're not trying to build a community and serve people. So I call it when my intuition kind of pings on something, and we were looking at separating from Lena and Sequoia for an entire rainy season, and that didn't feel right. And I was pinging on coming into town and being available. Basically coming out of hiding in some ways.
Yeah. From being so deeply in, it was often, at times, it was hard to feel, well, this might be our home forever.
Yeah.
And very gingerly, the universe, the divine, massaged us out of there to be here right now.
Yeah. And I think to back up maybe to why we ended up in this off-grid setting in the first place.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that.
It was 2 years and 4 months ago that we were sitting at a campground with the four of us, feeling how our work was not really going in to the social milieu in Canada. There was a core of us, but despite our efforts to hold talks and post flyers, there just wasn't a resonance ground. And we're sitting in a campfire because we had actually moved into RVs, living in a campground.
Sold everything.
That now everything we're down to a storage locker and what's in the RVs.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in there, it's a few months now we've been living there, and Gilelle comes up with the idea and says, what do you guys think about moving to Mexico?
It wasn't really me, if I can add that.
It was your mouth.
It came through me, because when the guidance comes, sometimes it's like this. Like there really is, you're shoved into a room, and you can always say no. I mean, it's our sovereign right to say no, but why would you? Especially if it's your next place. And we were literally camping next to a river. And I often use the analogy that, you can sit on the bank, you can go with the flow, or you can try to swim upriver. Which one is most natural? And so we were sitting by the river waiting to get into the flow, is how it felt at the campground. And then getting this guidance about Mexico, more sustainable, year-round growing, opportunity to buy land within a community. Oh, it just fit so many pictures for us. And we had always been drawn and loved Mexico.
And with so many life changes that we had made previously, it seems a bit far-fetched to pitch an idea in front of a campfire, but we actually had been through so much life change that we could actually trust and embrace and choose the steps. And within 4 months, we left for Mexico.
And again, sold everything, like 5 cars. We have joked that it was like a car lot, because we had like 3 cars to sell your entire business. Well, I think the point I want to make here, and realizing the bigger context here, is that when you move into the flow of guidance and you're really connected to it, your whole life gets turned upside down, but all the pieces fall into place. It was like every time this has happened, things fall into place easily. It's so easy that it's like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
And so that's the flow. Again, you go upriver, you go downriver, even if there's rapids and it's like kind of scary, which it was scary. Like we didn't know what was going to happen living here. We didn't know how it would be to live in an RV. I mean, here you and I are in a 19-foot home. What's that going to do to our relationship? You don't know that it's going to work out, but if you get into this intuitive flow, I didn't realize this is a big part of our story.
Is change.
But change that's come from guidance.
And trust.
And trust, surrender.
So
that's played out over and over.
Yeah. So that led to, we had downsized. We lived in a campground in an RV for 9 months. We had vacated a house, and that's where the idea arose to move to Mexico. That put us on the ranch.
And we were tuning into industrial collapse, deconstruction, all, as you said, all of the resources being strained. You know, we don't have our own access to our own fresh drinking water. We don't have access to our own food. Our food is poison a lot of the time, and so we were becoming more and more aware of that.
We really, really felt the demise of industrial civilization, and I think when I say that, I don't have to say too much more for you to know and feel that we're in a time of great change. I think that's why we're talking about change, because we are in change collectively, even those who aren't conscious.
And we talk about either you move with change or it happens to you.
Right.
So where we are now, yes, we're in an industrial environment again, but we're very tuned into what's going on, how yes, we're being supported by these industrial systems, but for how long and what do we do next? If something happens, we're going back to the ranch, you know.
Yeah.
We have an escape plan. So that's critical, that there's a consciousness, there's an awakeness to your life, and that you're proactively making changes rather than changes happening to you, which immediately makes you a victim. You keep going back to the story, so you can go back again. I kind of go off.
Yeah. I'm wondering what else to share of our story. We met each other 8 years ago in...
We're going to go that far back?
Sure, just to touch on it.
Okay.
In a spiritual and emotional healing work that I was a part of for 3 years and you were a part of for 4.5 years, and that was something that we eventually got kicked out of. And that's a story in itself. But we were done, but something so deeply was implanted in our hearts, particularly around working with parts of ourselves. And even though our social connection with this group ended, our deep desire to offer that work, particularly that work in the world, and what was emerging deeply in our hearts, in our spirituality.
And this happened, by the way, we'd only been together for 3 weeks when we got kicked out of this group, and so our entire social world, what I felt was my passion purpose, collapsed. And it was really, really devastating. And yet we also had this love bond that was inviting us to keep going. We also got banned, you got banned from being in the United States, and so we had to live in Canada. And that created an upheaval. And yet we moved, there's that context again of moving with change that life wants to bring you through it.
It's actually easier to embrace the change than it is to resist the change.
Right.
You have to feel the idea of moving to Mexico was completely bizarre on another level.
Yeah.
What do you, you know, it's just crazy, but to feel each part of objection and to feel the parts of me that in reaction was to build the trust and to manifest the circumstances that just worked.
It's a really good point, though, that this was all, you know, I say follow guidance and surrender, but you have to negotiate your way there. And the negotiation is with parts of you that go, hell no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. And
the fear that comes up, so we don't say that you don't have fear. We say feel the fear and negotiate with it.
Yeah.
Make it a part of yourself. Let the divine talk to the fear. That's what I do, you know, when I'm in the place. And I don't get guidance from some lofty place. I get it from here. Yeah. And that's what moves me forward.
Let the part of us in fear receive the embrace of the divine, and the divine actually validates the fear. Of course you feel that.
Yes.
Oh. And you feel felt.
Yes.
And then the charge dissipates, and all of a sudden your story is different. Your energy is different. I, at one point, said, I'm going to die trying. If it doesn't work out and I fall flat on my face, I can be at peace with that. That courage is not...
Die trying to be in your bigness.
Yeah.
Because you really... The other part of the story is Raphael gave up a very lucrative painting contracting career. Yeah. 30 years to... And when we knew we had to get out of Canada in order to really let that go. Because it's so tempting and it was such easy money in one way.
It's interesting because at the point of our decision to come to Mexico, we actually were sitting on no money at the moment. Painting season, the summer season was coming. And such a mind-blowing few months of painting.
$40,000.
And
This is what I
honestly-
mean. You make a decision and life supports it.
And just this thump, all of a sudden our hands are like overflowing with money. And the temptation is, well, now we could live really comfortably if we just stayed here. That became a nest egg that, like I said, we depleted. And now
And
we're in
purchase land with.
one of the biggest amazing things right now that's in our field is a whole new relationship to money.
Yeah.
That I so ache to be delivered from this money demon of the way we relate to money in Western civilization.
We had to
And-
renounce a lot and go
Yeah.
into a quiet, simple lifestyle.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's for everyone. That was our path.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we'll wrap up for now.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening,
Thank
taking
you.
us in.